The Canons Regular of the Order of the Holy Cross, commonly called Crosiers, are a Roman Catholic religious order. Tradition. The Crosiers were founded by 5 men attached to the household of the Prince-Bishop of Liège, Rudolph of Zähringen, who accompanied the Emperor Frederick Barbarossa on the Third Crusade. Upon the return, the 5, led by Theodorus de Celis, sought a new way of life, and shortly before his death, the bishop appointed them to be canons of his St. Lambert's Cathedral, Liège. After efforts to renew the life and practice of the College of Canons to which they belong, the 5 withdrew from Liège and moved up the Meuse River to a place called Clairlieu, outside the city of Huy, and began a way of life more in keeping with their ideals. This settlement of the 5 at Huy was the beginning of their order, and the house and small church dedicated to St. Theobald that they established became the order's mother house. Pope Innocent III verbally approved their order on the feast day of the finding of the Holy Cross, the 3rd of May 1210, and Pope Innocent IV granted them full and final approval on the 3rd of May 1248, the feast of the finding of the Holy Cross. History. In 1410, the Crosiers General Chapter ordered the destruction of its records and decisions from the time of its foundation. The reason for this radical act is recorded to have been a thorough reformation of some sort, but it left the order's modern historians with only fragments and clues to their order's first 2 centuries, and a tradition summarized above. The principal source of information about the origin of the order is in the Chronicon Crucifrorum of Henricus Ruselius, prior of Succy. Their own sources, a mention of them in non-Crosier sources, usually call them the Brethren of the Holy Cross, and the French and English words used for them, Croisiers and Crosiers, are derived from the French croire, one of the words used for a crusader, a meaning marked with a cross. Only one of the 5 founders for whom they have a name as the group's leader, and that only in its Latin form, Theodoricus de Celis, which first appears in a short history of the order published in 1636. While Ruselius does not mention Theodore's parents, there are biographies from the 17th century that say he was the son of Walter de Beaufort and Oda de Cella, guardians of the abbatial church of Cella near Dinan during the latter half of the 12th century. There is no record of the presence of the Crosiers at Huy until the 1240s, and only in 1322 did Clairlieu become the site of a magnificent church dedicated to the Holy Cross instead of the small chapel of St. Theobald. The new institution soon extended to France, the Netherlands, Germany, and also to England, because they were established in the early 13th century, were contemporaries of the Dominicans and Franciscans, and were usually referred to as Brethren of the Holy Cross. They were frequently misidentified as friars and were often confused with other religious orders who identified themselves with the cross. So, for example, there was a very old tradition that Bishop Albert of Prague took several Crosiers with him to Livonia, but these were in fact members of a Bohemian Order of the Holy Cross. In England, too, they and an Italian Order of the Holy Cross were both identified as crutched friars, and so the location of the houses and their activities are often mistaken for each other. One tradition claims that Theodorus de Celis assisted St. Dominic in his preaching to the Albigenses of southern France. A Crosier presence in that area is reliably recorded from early in the history. A similar tradition places Crosiers in the train of the French King St. Louis IX of France in 1248. During his crusade, he did enable the Crosiers to build the Paris monastery in 1254. The order flourished in the 15th and 17th centuries, and at its greatest extent had about 90 houses scattered across northern Europe. but those in England and in parts of the Netherlands and Germany were suppressed during the Protestant Reformation, and almost all of those that survived, notably in France and Belgium, including the ancient mother house at Huy, were suppressed in the closure of monasteries and convents after the French Revolution. In 1802, the area between Belgium and the Rhine River fell to France, along with other abbeys in French-controlled areas. The Crosier abbeys were abolished and the monks were forced to leave. By 1840, only 2 Crosier houses remained, both in the Netherlands, and they seemed likewise doomed to extinction by the decree of King William I of the Netherlands, which forbade religious houses in his realm to admit novices. When King William II lifted his father's ban on the 14th of September 1840, only 4 elderly Crosiers remained, the youngest around 60 and the oldest, Father William Cantor, the only Crosier able to remember his order as it had been before the Revolution. Thereafter the order slowly began to recover. In second half of the 19th century, the Crosiers returned to the Belgian birthplace, and even made an effort to transplant the order outside of Europe to the United States when their Master General sent some members to Bay Settlement, Wisconsin, in 1857. That attempt failed, however, and it was not until the first decades of the 20th century that the Crosiers were able to establish themselves outside of Europe, in the U.S., Brazil, Indonesia, and the Congo. There are still Crosiers in all these places, and the order presently numbers about 400 men. In the United States today, the Crosiers have priories in Phoenix, Arizona and Onamia, Minnesota. Crosier Father Tom N. King was elected the 13th of June as the new prior provincial of the Crosiers in the United States. He was installed for a 6-year term in of the 16th of June 2011. Liturgy in Onamia, Minnesota. Philosophy. The Crosiers are an order of Canons Regular. The membership consists of priests and brothers, all of whom live together according to the rule of St. Augustine. The way of life consists of 3 parts: life in a community setting, daily communal celebration of the Church as liturgy, and some form of active ministry. This ministry takes the form of preaching, directing retreats, parish work, education, prison ministry, immigration services and spiritual direction. The primary feast of the Crosiers, the Exaltation of the Cross, reflects a spirituality focused on the triumphal cross of Christ. Crosiers believe the resurrection of Jesus guarantees that in suffering and pain, there is hope and healing. Because of this, Crosiers emphasize the glorious, or triumphant cross. The Crosier habit is also canonical in form. They wear a white soutane, a tunic, and over it a black pendant sash, a black scapular and an elbow-length black cape called the mozzetta. Unlike the mozzetta worn by diocesan canons, that of the Crosiers is left unbuttoned to reveal the cross on the scapula, which has the form of a Maltese cross with a red upright and white crosspiece. The members of the order usually reside in houses called priories, so called because they are under the governance and direction of a prior, whom the members elect. The order is divided into districts called provinces, which are under the governance and direction of a prior provincial, who is elected by the provincial chapter, the formal assembly of delegates from the priories in the province who have been elected by the members of these houses. At the time of this writing, the order has provinces in Europe, the US, Indonesia, and Brazil. 2 other parts of the order, in the Congo and Irian Jaya, hold the status of regions, i.e., have a certain independence from the provinces that supervise them, but have not yet achieved the status of provinces. The entire order is under the governance and direction of its Master General, who is elected by the General Chapter, the formal assembly of delegates from the order's provinces and regions who have been elected by the members. Priors, provincial, and Masters General of the Order are all elected for specific terms. Catholic men who wish to enter the Order undergo a period of consideration and review, after which they may be accepted for a year of novitiate. Upon conclusion of his novitiate, a Crosier is admitted to a 3-year period of temporary vows. Thereafter, a second period of temporary vows may follow, or immediate admission to solemn profession, viz. vows taken for life. The Crosiers venerate Adelia of Cologne, one of the martyr companions of St. Ursula, as the patroness. She is said to have appeared to a lay brother of the order, John Novelan, in the Paris house in 1287, and to have instructed him to go to Cologne and exhume her relics from under a pear tree in the garden of Juan Arnal, a prominent burgher of that city. After some disbelief and resistance on the part of his superiors, Brother John fulfilled the saint's directions and brought her relics to the mother house at Huy on the 18th of July. The saint soon acquired a reputation as a miracle worker and continues to enjoy the veneration of both Crosiers and those outside the order. There are always a number of pilgrims who come to various houses and churches of the order on her feast day to ask for intercession, especially against blindness and diseases of the eyes. In response to requests, the Crosiers send small vials of water blessed with her relics all over the world. The National Shrine of St. Adelia is located in Onamia, Minnesota. In 2010, the Crosiers celebrated 800 years since their founding with Jubilee celebrations at St. Agatha Monastery near Cuijk, the Netherlands, where the Crosiers have lived continuously since 1371, as well as in the United States, Rome, Indonesia, Brazil and the Congo. Crosier Monasteries. Der Apel Monastery, the Netherlands. Wuppertal-Beinberg, Germany.